Are you in the defence force looking to buy a property? Well, today we have a treat. We've got Jared Blake on the show with us, and he is a former Army officer, now buyer's agent, and he specialises in finding property for people in the ADF. Jared, how are you today?
Good, Nathan. How are you, mate?
Not too bad.
Sweet.
Yeah, so thanks for coming on the show today. I'm really happy we finally got you on because there's not many people that specialize in what you do. So those in the defense forces can really benefit from listening today, especially when it comes to Australian Defence Force grant. So can you tell us a little bit about your background and what led you towards working in property?
Yeah, 100%, mate. So thanks for having me on. I appreciate the thought. It's been a few months since we last caught up at NRG, so it's good to have a chat. So a bit about my background. So prior to taking the path down the buyer's agent and property route, I spent 10 years serving in the ADF. As you said before, I was an army officer. I was an infantry officer. A little bit, Canberra for a couple of years, up to Townsville for a few years, and finished up in Brisbane, and now located on the Gold Coast. Over that time, I did a number of training opportunities overseas and domestically.
Yep.
Was lucky enough to serve in Afghanistan and to help out during the COVID debacle down in Melbourne before I was
Okay.
eventually discharged medically due to a number of injuries I'd sustained.
Hmm.
There's no quick process to discharging from the military. So during this sort of 6 to 9 month period while I was waiting to finish up, I was looking at what I could potentially do post-service. I'd gone through the process of purchasing and building my own property only shortly before that. So going through the process, I didn't realize until I was in the weeds just how difficult it can be, understanding the different elements and the different stages and steps to purchasing a property. So I set about sort of educating
Yep.
myself, and the more I learnt about it, the more I became interested. And I guess it just became a natural progression. I did a few courses, did my real estate license, studied through the Buyers Agents Institute. That I ended up finding a niche that where I could help ADF members like I once was to navigate the property purchase process and help them get into their first property with minimal deposit, but securing good homes that will achieve great capital growth and rental yield for investors.
Yeah, nice. So you work with first home buyers and investors.
Yeah, well, when I sort of meet any prospects or clients, we like to see it as not just a one transaction process. The idea is for current serving defence members to be thinking long term, and long term should be financial security as a minimum, with the gold plated solution being financial freedom. And now, what that looks like, and what myself and the team try and shape that around, is a sort of like a golden five property rule of five to achieve that financial security or freedom.
Yeah, nice.
And most importantly, is usually the first purchase. So if you can get your first purchase right, the capital growth that you can achieve over a number of years, it can help to use that equity to purchase your subsequent property, and then it just becomes a rinse and repeat process. And what we try to do as well is educate our clients along the way so that they're learning from the process, so that they know what to look for, and then it starts shortening that learning curve as they begin to develop their property portfolio.
Yeah, wow. So, so you have a five property strategy. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so that's what we like to sort of educate prospects. A lot of the times when they're first home buyers, they come to us with little to no knowledge about the property market. A lot of people have an understanding, or a small understanding of investment properties, equity, things like that. So it's not just a here we will do the process for you. We're here to educate as well and
Yeah.
understand the advantages that property can provide you. And everyone has different goals. A recent client, he's currently posted up in Darwin. He's a young bloke. He's only 25.
Yeah.
And ultimately, when he gets out of the Defence Force, he wants to be able to purchase a property back home in Shell Harbour. Now, he
Oh, yeah.
understands that right now that is unachievable. But what we did was sat down and came up with a plan for
Yeah.
him to look at purchasing properties over the next 10 years of his
Yeah.
military service in the hope that by building equity, rinse and repeating, purchasing a property, that at the end of his service, whether it's selling down or using the equity gained over those 4 to 5 properties that we purchase, that he'd
Yeah.
be able to buy his dream home back home in Shell Harbour.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. That's a good example of a first home buyer.
Mm-hmm.
So do you travel along with them and do strategy with them, or are you, over time after they buy their first property, or
With any client, we as I said before, it's not a
yeah,
we purchase this one property, we finish the transaction, and that's it. We do a 3-month health check post purchase, post
yeah,
settlement, to make sure that everything with the property is going as planned. There's no issues. Their finance
yeah?
is
Wow.
all good. And then subsequently at the 12-month period, that's when we can revisit what equity has been gained, if it's an investment property, what kind of rental returns they're receiving. So we look after the whole process. The team that we work with, we're not just buyers agents. We work with other veterans
Yeah,
who work in the mortgage broker space, the property management space, in the conveyancer space. So we all work together to make sure that the client get a full boutique experience,
yeah.
and all
Wow.
bases are covered.
Yeah, a lot of the buyers agents I've talked to, they're just pretty much help with the purchasing of the
Mm-hmm.
property and turn it over in a month or two. But to
Yep.
have in like a more of an end-to-end service, I think that's that's pretty special, and that's something especially
Yeah.
if you're off-site, in a remote area or something like that. You've got
Correct.
someone like I know you're based in the Gold Coast, but you got someone that can that can do that work for them, and get it happening a bit faster. So
Yeah, 100%. And like I said, we've carefully selected the partners that we work with,
mm,
which are as well, like I said, veterans. So they
mm,
understand the Defence Force experience and the particular challenges and unique circumstances that life brings. There's often times when either the husband or the wife, whichever one is in the military, they can spend weeks on months on end away from home,
yeah,
at times uncontactable for weeks or months on end. So then the responsibility falls to the partner who's back home, often with the kids, family dog, managing the household, and the stress of going through a property purchase or managing an investment property can be quite stressful.
yeah,
So having those business partners that we work with that work in each of those individual unique spaces, to have them to call upon who understand those unique circumstances that those families are in, be able to empathize with them and provide reassuring service is something that's unique to our business.
yeah. I've heard from other buyers agents that a lot of people um have weekends to look for properties, but you're doing it
Mm-hmm.
every day. So every week, you're
Mm.
doing what people are doing every month. So think about
Yeah,
that. So it's like a 4 times multiplier effect. As employees, like just you learn to discount your time. You're just doing what you're told, and you're spending hours every day commuting, hours every day doing tasks which may or may not be directly connected to how much you're getting paid.
yeah.
So do you find that in the with the defense force people like the education bit about leveraging your time to get the property that you want, sort of thing?
Yeah, so I think one of the reasons that being a buyer's agent in the niche market with the Australian Defence Force is that probably some of the most time poor individuals in the country. There's no set working hours. There's no set working days. You can go away for, like I said before, weeks or months on end at short notice. So, and buying a property is not you rock up on the weekend, you buy the property, and then it's all said and done. It can be a 30, 60, 90-day process.
Yeah.
And there's no guarantee that, someone in the Defence Force is going to be here for that whole time. So, acting on their behalf and being someone that they can trust to do the job for them, speak the language, and understanding their unique situation is very important. And as you said, weekends is when a lot of people they trawl through open homes, etc. What I've found over my journey as a buyer's agent is developing good quality relationships with real estate sales agents is important as servicing my clients and being able to arrange private inspections at times and locations that suit my clients. Their schedule is important, and unless you've fostered good quality working relationships with real estate agents, they're just not going to be interested. So it's a balancing act, So you've got to respect and understand the other side of any deal that you're potentially doing, and you need to make sure that you've understood your client's needs, because you don't want to go wasting a real estate agent's time by them doing a private inspection, but the property is just not appropriate to what your client is looking for.
Yeah. I like how you put that. So what would you tell like a first-time home buyer and investor about the process of buying to gain an advantage over other buyers? Like, a bit of inside story.
Best advantage, use a buyer's agent. But if you're going to go it alone, it's educate yourself. So you want to have an advantage over other buyers, it's learn. And when I say educate yourself, particularly for young people, that's not mum and dad. When they purchased property, 20, 30 years ago, very different.
Yeah.
Purchasing property 2 or 3 years ago to right now, very, very different. So there's the advantage that we have these days is the internet, it is podcasts. So there are a lot of very, very intelligent people out there. People that are a lot smarter than myself when it comes to property purchase, and I'm learning every day. So yeah, I would say do your research, understand the area that you're purchasing in, and understand what and why you're trying to purchase. If you're a first home buyer, okay, it's understanding how best to use your money, because mistakes when buying property can be very, very costly. So understanding what you're getting yourself into, not rushing to make an emotional decision, and being patient. Just because you fall in love with a property, have a look at the location you're buying in, look at infrastructure that would be going in. It's a long-term commitment, and it's probably the most expensive commitment you will ever make. So you need to make sure that you do the right things. So you need to educate yourself and continuously learn. As an investor, it's important to separate the purchase from the emotion. A lot of people who are buying, particularly their first investment property, look at a property and think, oh, I could see myself living here, or how good's a pool, how good's this? What you want to be thinking of it as is it's a business, right? You need to think about your ideal tenant and what they need from it. So it needs to be proximity to schools, proximity to transport, proximity to shopping centres. I like to break it down when I speak to my clients as non-negotiables and nice to haves. And then you constantly refine that list until we then match that up with the type of property that we're looking for. And price isn't always something that I will focus on. We look at the property itself, and then we try and find a property that matches the price, because just going cheaper is not always the best option, because a cheaper property can be more expensive in the long term. So there's a lot of lessons to be learned, and all I can say is education, learning, utilizing professionals, not mum and dad, the internet, podcasts, and continuing to understand the market and what you're getting yourself into better.
Yes, they're wise words. just on like more of a like a personal note, what's been one of the most significant challenges you've faced in your property journey, and how did you overcome that?
Yeah, so I
It's a
guess
tough one. Sorry.
um, I wouldn't say it's a tough one. It is starting out. Um, we live in a society and a generation where validation is very quick. With property and with business, it's not. It is long term. There's no secret that most small businesses fail within the first 12 months.
Yeah.
And when you get into sort of this business, the grind is real to begin with.
Mm.
As I touched on before, you need to foster relationships. You need to
Yeah.
continuously learn. You need to find mentors, and you're going to make mistakes. Um, but you need to constantly learn. And the biggest thing I think I'd find is motivation than people realize when they don't receive the validation. And what you need to realize is when that motivation fails, you need to replace that with discipline and a positive mindset. So when that motivation finds, it very quickly becomes, I have to go to work today. I have to prospect today. I have to go out and walk the streets, door knock
Love
today.
that.
Changing that language to, I get to go to work today. I get to prospect today. I get to door knock today. And just repeating that to yourself and replacing that motivation with discipline is very, very important.
Yeah.
And, you will not see the fruits of your labor for, likely that first 12 months. And a lot of people can quit. And it is difficult. It's hard. You will doubt yourself. But if you stick it out, you'll begin to see, as you learn through the process, you'll begin to see that validation come, and the success will come. So the most important piece of information or the piece of advice I can give is don't quit and replace your motivation with discipline.
Yeah, I was thinking about getting this as a tattoo. It's discipline is the shortcut. So it's sort of like everyone wants a shortcut, and discipline seems like this horrible thing that an angry adult told you as a child or something like
Yeah,
that. And it's like discipline is the shortcut. So it's sort of like it's not the shortcut you're looking for, but that's the answer.
correct.
It's the ugly truth. And
Certainly is.
yeah. So yeah, I can like I've heard you interviewed before, and you definitely come across that way that you don't shy away from talking about those uglier times that you've had, but the way you think and present yourself is just so you do come across with a high level of discipline, and I think that's really yeah, that's really something to aspire towards, and just to have a better life, just to
100%.
get the most out of it every day, just to make stuff happen, So yeah.
You gotta learn to enjoy it, and you got to take the hard lessons as exactly that, as lessons, and try not to repeat them. Um, as I say to clients, this should be constantly a learning process, and that's no different for us as business owners or as buyers agents or as property investors. You need to learn from, I don't like to call them mistakes, we call them lessons.
Yeah, it's like reframing mistakes.
100%.
And yeah, yeah, yeah,
You can't let your ego get in the way. If you have an ego in property or in business, it's not going to work out.
yeah. I've definitely fell into that trap before,
Mm.
for sure. What would it look like if an investor was to approach you, and they're miles away? They might be overseas, but you're talking, or you begin the conversation about looking for an investment property. What does that look like? What does that feel like?
Yeah, so I guess I start all
It's different.
my initial prospect conversations with, I like to be very transparent
Yeah.
through all the work I do, whether that's dealing with a prospect or a client or it's dealing with real estate agents. I think transparency, trustworthy, and that discipline are sort of the three key pillars that I try to use. So yeah, with investors, I won't be a wise agent that is going to, just tell you what you want to hear. I'll be upfront, and I encourage any potential client to be the same with me. You know, I'll lay out the exact process that we use, and that process has been refined over the time that we've been doing the business, and it is continuously being refined. If they're not happy with the way that we do things, and that's fine. We're not going to be for everyone. Buyers agents aren't for everyone. If you're seeking professional advice or assistance through the process, that's what we're here for. But I encourage both myself and a potential client to leave egos at the door, and we go on this process together, and I will back them 110% and give 110% of my energy to supporting them through the whole process. And that goes from selecting properties, providing my recommendations on what is good and what isn't, and being completely upfront and honest with them. At times that can bring a clash of personalities, but that's okay, because at the end of the day, I want the best results for my clients, and I'm completely client focused. And that's what gets us over the line in the end. And that's what keeps our clients coming back for repeat business, because they appreciate in the current society that we live. There are plenty of people out there that will tell you what you want to hear, but that is not always the best, particularly in this line of work.
Yeah, nice. So you're helping people look for properties.
Mm-hmm.
What are the other parts of your service there? So they're in the ADF potentially.
Yep.
They're looking for properties, and they might know where to start. So what? After you've found the property, what do you do then?
Yeah, so what we've refined it down to is a 5-step process, which we use a common terminology from the Defence Force, which is called the Soldiers 5. Soldiers 5 in the Defence Force is
Nice.
basically,
I'm glad I
yeah,
asked. I have no idea what that is.
the Soldiers
I'm
5.
definitely not a soldier.
Yes, for those who are military members, they'd be familiar with it. Soldiers 5 is
Okay.
basically known as a short, succinct breakdown of how to do something.
Yeah.
Whether that's to, set up a particular antenna when you're out in the bush. Someone will give you a Soldier's 5, so it's a quick set of instructions on how to get something done rather than a whole detailed lesson. So we call it the Soldier's 5 process, and we break it down to a few simple steps to simplify the process on a sheet of paper, so they can say, okay, I know what step I'm in now. Step 1 starts with our prospect meeting, where we understand the client's needs, wants, and desires from a property purchase. And that's where we really flesh out whether we're a good fit to work together. And it won't always be a good fit, and that's okay. Again, it's a learning process. We'll provide whatever information. That's always obligation free. And we provide some recommendations to them. Once we've collected sort of that basic background information, what we'll then do is push them off to our financier, who will go through the mortgage broking process with them. Another NRG member, Gavin, he's worked with a number of our clients, provides a wonderful service. And again, veteran himself understands the unique lifestyle and needs of the Defence Force, and understands their access to grants, etc., that can help them have that best borrowing power as possible. So that's step 2. They go through the finance process. Once that's all established and they've got their pre-approval and their borrowing power, that's when they come back and we start to refine the type of property that they're looking for.
Great.
So that's step 3, is we start really refining the property, and that's a non-rush process. That's probably the most important. Whether they're a first home buyer or an investor, we make sure that we really, really understand the client's needs. But within that, we also provide our professional advice to, hey, have you considered this? Whether it's a location, whether it's a price, whether it's spending a little bit more money, whether it's bringing down what their expectations are to suit with what their budget potentially is, and what the long-term goals are for their property. Not just the short-term purchasing this property, but what is the long-term. So that's step 3. Step 4 is when we go through the build and buy process. So once we've narrowed it down to 1 or 2 properties, that's when I start to earn my money when it's either negotiating a property, or if we've decided to go with a new build, it's going through the build process, making sure we're coaching them through it,
Yeah,
understanding
wow.
the stage process of paying for the build, making sure inspections are done at the appropriate stage, and doing all the due diligence through either the build or the purchase process, ensuring that they're in touch with our conveyancers or the conveyancers that they have chosen to work with, understand their specific needs and unique circumstances. And
Yeah,
then once we get through to the settlement stage, that's we get to step 5, which is where we do the 3-month and 12-month check-in, to ensure that, like I said, that at the 3-month stage, everything's going correctly with the property, their finances all sorted, there's been no issues. And the 12-month health check that we like to do is to make
yeah,
sure that everything is right from the property. It's going along how we expected it to, achieving some sort of growth in the area, checking what kind of infrastructure and stuff is going in, if there's any changes to that particular location, and seeing where we're at and start setting the conditions for the next purchase.
that's awesome. I love it. I've looked at a few like property buyers websites, and they've got 10, 20 steps, man. So to boil it down, you can really wrap your head around that. And I like how you've
Yeah,
got. I particularly like how you've got it as a sold as 5, and it's like you just brought that across, from the known to the unknown. It's
yeah,
not a yeah. A lot of new buyers don't have any feet to stand on, so that's a pretty sweet strategy
yeah.
right there. That's for sure. So, who are you working with at the moment?
Property boutique. So I partnered with them about 6 months ago.
Hmm.
Previously, I was running my own business,
Mm.
but I've done previous work with Property Boutique and
Yeah,
our partner Shane, um, and they more worked on the sales side and a lot of the property management side.
yeah,
And they didn't have a buyer's agent, so we sat down, had a conversation about working together. And the thought process behind that was I was spending a lot of time doing a lot of the back end requirements, social media advertising, SEO, the stuff that is, sort of goes unnoticed when you're running your own business. And the actual part of the business that I wanted to, which was,
yeah,
working with clients and purchasing property. So by partnering with Shane at Property Boutique, they had an admin team that could provide that support on the back end, which would
yeah.
then allow me the opportunity to focus more on the part of the business that I want to. And the other advantage is working with Shane. He comes from 25 years of real estate, building and construction experience.
Yeah,
So he also has provided great mentorship, and he has a lot of great connections, which, as you know, in any business that we work in, those business-to-business relationships are a massive advantage.
totally.
So to be able to lean on 25 years of experience and 25 years of customer and business relationships has seen my personal business and the brand of myself as a buyer's agent grow exponentially. So it's been advantageous to both parties, and it's working really well. We have a great office down at Currumbin, right on the creek there, around the corner from the beach.
Not a bad spot, eh?
It's great. It's a great spot, and we've got a great back end team. It's a real family business, um, and a lot of the agents that work there come from all different walks of life.
Yeah,
Like I said, from construction, building, and also from the defence force. So we can attack different clients from different angles, and we all provide a very unique experience. So the name Property Boutique is very relevant because we provide a unique boutique experience for our clients.
yeah, that's for sure. We've definitely covered a lot today. And so, what's the best way people can contact you, like to find you?
Yep. So obviously we have. So I've got social media pages, which is Jared
Yep.
JARRYD dot
Thank you.
Property Boutique. both on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok.
Yep. Nice.
Yep. Or via email, which is J.
Yeah, cool. So should people send you what's the best way to contact you? Is it through email, phone, or through socials?
Yeah, I think socials. I guess the generation that we work with operate a lot on social media. On Instagram, there's a link to a page which is specifically designed for Defence Force members. It
Yep.
has some of the stuff that we discussed, particularly that Soldiers 5. And we also
Yep.
have a free ebook on that page known as the ADF Home Starter Kit.
Yep.
You can access that through there. There's a lot of great video content, which goes into detail about different housing grants the ADF guys can access, both Defence Force grants and government grants, and the way that they can be combined to essentially help them purchase their own property without needing to save for a deposit. Now, that process is tried and tested. I did it myself, and I'm just trying to educate Defence Force members how they can do that themselves. And that ADF Home Starter Kit has lots of great content in there. It's got the type of properties that they can access and other bonuses and extras for any ADF member who buys a property through us. We donate $1,000 to Legacy. We also provide them with a $1,000 gift voucher at the end of the purchase at settlement to help them furnish their new property. There's a lot of great stuff in there. Get in contact. Read through the kit, ask any questions. We're always happy to help any veterans or ADF personnel, obligation free, whether or not they become a client, because education and giving back is primary reasons we do what we do.
Yeah. So that's great. I'm just making sure I got your right handle here. Jared.property boutique. Is that right?
That's the one.
Yeah. So check that out. Check him out on Instagram. See you playing golf there, mate. You like a bit of golf?
Mate, there's nothing wrong with having business meetings on a golf course, I'll tell you what.
Yeah. Yeah, nice. Yeah. So yeah, your last post is download the ADF Home Starter Kit free today. I love it. That's cool. And
Bio will take you to that page, which has all that information on there.
what was that? Sorry.
The link in the bio on the Instagram page, that'll take you to the page, which will have that ADF Home Starter Kit and the rest of the content in there.
Yeah, great. It's got a nice little video on there to get people started. Yeah, that's a great. Yeah, nice. So that's a full ebook. Yeah, sweet. All right. Well, Jared, thanks for coming on today. I really appreciate you spending time with us, and it's great to hear everything you do to help out ADF members get ahead of the property market.
No worries, mate. Nathan, I appreciate you having me on, mate.
Cheers. Well, you have a good day. Have a great weekend, mate.
Yeah, you too. Cheers.
Cheers.